Hey everyone, welcome back to the iX channel where we simplify the world of finance and economics. Today we're diving into the alphabet of soup of economic terms GDP, GNP, NDP, and NNP. These terms might sound a little intimidating, but don't worry, I've got your back. By the end of this video, you'll not only know what they mean, but also how they calculate it and how they impact the economy. Let's break it all down. Alright, let's start with the big one, GDP. GDP stands for Gross Domestic Product and is probably the most talked about measure of an economy. So what does it actually mean? In simple terms, GDP is the total value of all the goods and services produced within a country's borders in a specific time period, usually a year. Now, it doesn't matter who's producing these goods, whether it's a local company or a foreign one, as long as it's within a country's borders, it's part of GDP. For example, a car produced by a Japanese company in the US is counted in the US GDP, not Japan's. It looks a bit fancy, but it's basically the sum of everything people and businesses spend money on, plus what the government spends, and we throw in the value of exports and imports. Simple, right? Next up, GNP, Gross National Products. It's kind of like GDP, but with one key difference. GNP measures the total value of goods and services produced by a country's residents, no matter where they are in the world. So for GNP, if a US company produces cars in Japan, that value counts for the US GNP, not Japan's. It's all about who owns the production, not where it happens. Basically, you take GDP and add any income earned from overseas investments by residents minus what foreign residents earn in your country. GNP gives us a better idea of how much a nation's citizens are contributing to the economy, even outside the borders. Before we move on, if you're enjoying this video and finding it helpful, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. And if you're new here or haven't already, hit the subscribe button so you don't miss out on any simple more explanation of financial and economic concepts. Alright, let's keep going. Okay, moving on to NDP, which stands for Net Domestic Product. It's like a cleaned up version of GDP. You know how things like machines, buildings, and tools wear down over time? That's called depreciation. So NDP is just GDP, but with depreciation subtracted. It gives us a more realistic picture of an economy's value after accounting for the wear and tear on physical assets. It's like saying, hey, you made a lot of stuff, but how much is really left after the machines doing all that work wore out? Finally, we have NNP, or Net National Product. Think of NNP as the GNP version of NDP. It's GNP, but again, we subtract depreciation. So NNP gives us the value of goods and services produced by a country's residents, both at home and abroad, minus depreciation. This shows us the actual net value after accounting for the cost of replacing worn-out assets. Alright, now let's talk about how these four terms compare to each other. They're all measures of economic activities, but each one gives us a slightly different view of how well an economy is doing. Think of them like different lenses of the same camera. Each one focuses on a different detail. So let's compare them. First up, GDP versus GNP. The biggest difference is geography. GDP focuses on where the goods and services are produced inside of countries' borders. GNP, on the other hand, focuses on who produces them, whether they're at home or abroad. So if a country has a lot of businesses operating overseas, their GNP might be bigger than their GNP. But if most of the production is happening within a country, GDP and GNP might be pretty similar. Make sense? Now, how about GDP versus NDP? Here's the key difference. Depreciation. GDP gives you the total value of everything produced, but it doesn't account for the fact that some of the machines and equipment used in production might wear out over time. So NDP is basically GDP with a reality check. It's like saying, sure, you made $100 million worth of stuff, but some of your equipment wear out, so the real value left is only $90 million. NDP gives us a more accurate picture of the economy after wear and tear. Then we've got GNP versus NNP. The same idea applies here. GNP is the total value produced by residents wherever they are in the world, but NNP goes a step further by subtracting depreciation. So if you want to know how much value is truly left after replacing all the equipment, you look at NNP. It's GNP's way of keeping things realistic, just like NDP does for GDP. To sum it all up, GDP and GNP are like the big picture numbers, but NDP and NNP give you the net or true value after accounting for depreciation. GDP and NDP focus on production inside the country, while GNP and NNP focus on what the country's residents produce globally. And those net versions, NDP and NNP, are always a little more realistic because they factor in the wear and tear on the stuff that keeps the economy going. Different lenses, same economy. Depending on what you're trying to measure or understand, you might focus on one over the others. Alright folks, I hope you found this breakdown of GDP, GNP, NDP, and NNP helpful. If you enjoyed this video or learned something new, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe for more easy to understand finance videos. Drop your questions in the comments below and I'll catch you in the next one. See ya!